Hello. It's a fine day with some Fino yarn. I'm Cadence Kidwell, proprietress at Fuzzy Goat in downtown Thomasville, Georgia. And I'm working on a new sweater in this yarn that I'm going to show you. And also talk a little bit about when good enough really isn't good enough. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Fino. And we're also going to talk about saying goodbye to a favorite bag. Alas, dang. I'm going to start with that so I can end on a happier note. Alas, Treasure, who makes our fabulous and beloved tassel bags, will no longer be able to do these for Fuzzy Goat anymore. She's not able to do her wholesale orders. She's got a new full-time job, and so she won't be able to make these for us anymore. So the ones we have are all the ones we're ever going to have, and these are the ones that we actually have in our custom fabric. I did tell her that if she ever needs a quick infusion of cash, we'll do some more with her on the spur of the moment because we love her and we wish her well. But these beautiful Florida-made bags, this one with our fuzzy floral with our own custom print in our Fuzzy Goat colors that Sarah Simmons designed the art for us, and the fuzzy animals, which also they've got the alpacas, the sheep, and the goats, also by Sarah Simmons. She is, these are the two we have, and we have just a handful, maybe 3 or 4, maybe, of each. So get them while you still can. They're great bags. I love mine. Mine's all nice and squishy, and it's got, but it's firm enough that it stands up. She's got great interfacing in there, and it has a nice little gusset. So those are the tassel bags, great for knitters or crocheters, and the ones we have are all the ones we're ever gonna have. Okay, so back onto some fun stuff. Those are super fun bags. I'm wearing a girl's best friend. This is in our custom colorways that we set up for Fuzzy Goat. So it's a set with the Fino mini bundles and then a full skein of Fino for the longer color work. And we have adapted the pattern when you buy the kit. Whoops. I purposely didn't tie it securely so that I could take it off and show you because I love the little pom-poms, which of course are optional on there. And you can always put the color in different places. You still need to use the main skein for this because this is where the most yardage is, but these others can work. And so I knew I wanted this color next to my face. I knew I wanted to end with the blue. And then I actually kind of would start putting a different color in, and I was like, that doesn't look that good. So I went back and redid it. But you can get a pattern modifications in the kit of how to make this work in the with the mini skeins and do it the way we did it. Or I can make that look a little bit better, but I want to spend more time talking to you. Or the pattern, Isabel Kramer wrote it using 3 skeins of Fino, and you could just use it without the mini skeins and make it a little bit larger as she intended and the way it should be. But look at these colors. Let me show you what I'm working on, and then I'll show you the yarns. I'm working on, I've been talking about this for 6 months, and remember, we got these bags and I said, I need to find a project for my bag. So here's my project for my bag. These bags will be, they are on the way. They are to arrive on Monday or Tuesday. So I'm making the Hakuji, I'm not sure how you say that. And it has cables in it, which you can't really see in this beautiful sample, but voila! You can see, whoops. You could see in mine. See the cables? Oh my gosh, I wish you could feel this. This feels like a cloud. So my pattern went overboard. So this is gonna be a pull-over sweater. The link to this is in the Fino yarn, and you can, it's also reversible, so you can wear it either way. And I'll talk more about how I'm doing that in just a moment. Let me take a second to say good morning to Barbara and Rita and Kimberly and Susan and Cindy and Rachel and Deborah and Sherry and Linda. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for watching. So I'm going to show you these colors. that we have in the Fino. But then I also want to show you, say you just want to do one skein of something, you know, not into a sweater or 3 skeins like this one. This is knit by Elaine, and this is Joji Locatelli's Lonely Shawl, and it is in just 1 skein of this amazing Fino. And this, look at this color. I just want to put this on instead. Okay, so let's look at these colors. We ordered these thinking you all might want to also make that sweater that I'm making, because I'll talk to you about the details of that. I thought a rich blue, there's a blue version on Ravelry that looks really pretty. I'm doing it in this color here, Songbird. This is the color of the Lonely Shawl. This is Malachite. Look at that. This has amazing yardage too. It has 490 yards, and it's 30% silk and 70% merino wool. And it really is light as a cloud. It is a single ply. So let me separate one here for you. It's got just a little bit of a halo. So here, oops, they want to stick together. Here you can see that it's just a single ply, meaning it's not different skeins, different threads plied together. Here's one that's plied to show you the difference here. So can you see how that's plied? Yeah, I'll talk about that shortly. So this beautiful Fino here was really great. And you could also make that sweater in lace. It actually calls for lace. And this is some lace weight that we also got in from Manos. We love working with Manos. Manos comes to us from Uruguay. They run a women's cooperative where they educate the community. They have schools for the women who, for the children, for the women who work for them, but then also for the community. And they have advancement programs in the company. I mean, it's just an overall amazingly women-empowered organization. And so this is the lace weight that the pattern originally calls for. I had my heart set on using this color, so I have been working with the pattern a little bit. This one has 874 yards, and it is also a single ply lace weight. Most lace weights are a single ply, and it is merino there. Yes, superwash merino. And we have this beautiful color. I think that pattern would look great because the cables are so big. You could use one with a lot of variation in it, but it would also look lovely in Juliet. This is Grand Hotel. This is Juliet, and this is Asphalt, a really lovely gray that has just a slight purple cast to it in certain lights. I think that's really pretty. Okay, so you might have noticed we also have a new sample behind us. So this is Cheryl's new sample of Crescent City. It's a pattern that I wrote for 1 skein of DK. I wrote it for Good Vibes Yarn Tour, which the tickets will go on sale tomorrow. So that is 1 skein of DK. So let me take this off here. Let me put the DK in my lap and take this off. It calls for a size 11 needle. And so you can see how, look at that, 1 skein, you can make it go that far. You could go down a needle size and make it a little denser and make it a little smaller if you like. It's a nice airy shawl. We often get asked, what can we do with just 1 skein? Let me see if I can get that back up there. All right, don't judge the way she's hanging on the mannequin right now. There we go. That might work. As we say here, that dog might hunt. But we often get asked, I love this skein. What can I do with it? And so that's kind of how I go about designing patterns, is solving the questions that you guys have. And so that shawl right there that Cheryl knit for us is Sentimental, which is in our 29 Bridges pop-up, still going on. 1 skein will do it. And so I brought over lots of ones that you could do that with. This is super fun. It's also a great pattern for, you find one like this that's really highly variegated and you're like, I love that. I have no idea what I can do with just one of those. This is another good pattern for that, because with this, what I call the fancy stitch in through here, the drop stitch, the crisscross stitch, sorry, not the drop stitch, the crisscross stitch, that pattern's gonna hold up just fine and show up and be worth the effort. How do we say that? The juice is worth the squeeze. I'm not sure if that's how that goes. It would be really great with a highly variegated yarn. This one here is called Color Run. And these are our 29 bridges pop-up, still going on. You know, I love a good copper. This is patina. This one is Cali. Rich browns and little bits of plum in there. This one is Dream. This is a real favorite. We also have the fingering and the Surrey silk still. Though I have to say this is one of our fastest going pop-ups. And then this one is Scotch Moss. White with, I have some of this in the Surrey silk planned for a sweater. I'm still interviewing the patterns. That's how my mom says about, she's a quilter, she's interviewing the fabrics. This pattern, Crescent City, would have looked equally good in a solid. So I brought over Moraine and Front Row. So those would all work. We also still have Knitwise. Knitwise is still in the house, and these beautiful tweeds, and I think this pattern would look really fun in a tweed. One of my favorites, of course, is going to be Breakfast at Elaine's. That's also really close to that there, so that would be a great choice. Bonnie Magenta. This is named after our friend Bonnie, who requested a specific magenta color that Alicia was able to dye up for her. In fact, both of these are colors that Alicia of Knitwise Fibers dyed up upon request of our lovely customers. Elaine, who wanted a Tiffany blue, and this is why it's called Breakfast at Elaine's, and this one is Bonnie Magenta. Isn't that fun? Actually, so like sometimes I'll know the reason behind a color, but this time I actually not only know the reason, but I know the people that they're named after, and now you do too. This one is Slow Like Honey. It's a gold with a little bit of chartreuse tint to it, just barely. And this is really fun and kind of an unexpected color, Almondine. And then these two are just classics. So if you wanted like a nice gray wrap, the charcoal would be nice, and the tweedy bits in there give it some character, or hot chocolate would also be really good in there. So that is the pattern, Crescent City, and those are the DK. And now I need to get my pattern off the floor because I'm going to talk a little bit about how this is going. So this is really fun. Actually, I thought of something else I hadn't mentioned in a while. I often do this on the inside of my bags. I take one of these opening stitch markers and I put a few stitch markers on there, especially if I'm going to be traveling. Inevitably, one of my stitch markers is going to pop off in the seat, on the airplane, in the car. I'm not going to be able to find it. I don't know where. I can't knit without stitch markers. So I want to have some extra right there. So I've got them pinned inside my bag. For this case, I've also got my row counter pinned inside my bag because I don't want to be digging in there. I tried even doing this last night and having it on the chair next to me, and it falls into my lap and I can't find it, and I want to think, oh, I'll change rows later. That's a disaster. So I've pinned that right inside my bag also. So what I wanted to talk about when good enough is not good enough. All right. I started with this piece. So I have two pieces. I started with this one. Let me back up a second. This pattern calls for lace. I had my heart set on a light fingering. You guys know this. You guys are like this. I hear this from you too as well. So I'm adapting the pattern. I am going off-road. All bets are off on how it's going to turn out, but it is a loose-fitting sweater, so I feel like I've got some grace in there. So I did my measurements. I did my gauge swatch. I swatched to the fabric that I wanted because it is a loose knit, so if I used the exact needle that she asked for, with my yarn being a little thicker, the fabric wasn't going to be as loose as I wanted it and how it seemed pretty. So when I did all that, I cast this on, and it's huge. It's really super long. It's like all stretched out. I'm like, oh my, I mean, right? I can't even get it on the screen. And I thought, okay, that might not be right. That might not be right. Houston, we might have a problem. So Melissa and I were conferring on it, and I left this on the needles. I know it's going to take a second ball anyway. So I started my second ball and got going on that. So this is an example of when good enough is not good enough. If your sweater is going to turn out way too big, and even though I've knit this much and did one row of cables, honestly, this is one night's worth of work with really beautiful yarn. How many more nights is it going to take me to knit a whole sweater, and then it's just going to be so gigantic and so much more yarn? I thought, I'm just going to pause. I'm going to stop. This is when good enough is not good enough, and I'm going to go over here. I've only kept this around just to show it to you. I'll now undo it, and then I'll completely forget that I spent an evening doing that. I won't be mad about it at all, because now when I went down a sweater size, this is much more reasonable. I can get that on there. It's an interesting construction. It is a dropped shoulder, so it's going to kind of come like this, and then down the sleeve, down the arm, and then you pick it up. But this is how wide the sweater will be. And see, that still gives me a lot of, my husband would say, blousiness. It's a blousy sweater. I don't know, is that a real word for thing? So this is my little story about, you know, getting started. Is that right? That's not really the way I think I want it to be, and then going again. A lot of times, good enough is good enough. If I had a drop stitch, I could drop down into there and fix it. The real message about good enough is, can you live with it? And there are so many things to knit that I can never get to. A lot of times it's like, oh yeah, I can live with that. But a sweater that I just started that's going to be way too big, why? Why am I going to live with that? I can just redo that again. I also highly recommend a yarn cozy for this yarn, because it is the silk in there. What I like about this particular yarn with the silk, you saw me trying to separate them here. This particular yarn with the silk is a little more, because it has the halo, is a little more grabby, if I could say that. Here I am, just like Mr. Fuzzy Goat, making up words. It doesn't, it's not just, like, I still love a silk that does that. Don't get me wrong. I love that. But this silk kind of tends to attach to itself, which makes a really nice, fluffy fabric. Oh, I'm going to love this. Yes, I see a color theme. I finished that orange sweater. I've got my new linen shirt that goes really great with my girl's best friend, and now I have my coral color, salmony, creamsicle looking sweater. This is also going to be my travel knitting. Melissa and I are going to market soon, and I wanted to get a good start on a lightweight project that I could squish up and put into a bag. Next time I'll talk about my my travel prep for that. So thank you for watching. I'll get the links up about Crescent City and a girl's best friend and the sweater that I'm working on too. Have a great rest